Right now, millions of Americans are paying $40 a month for a plastic bottle of freeze-dried bacteria. Why? Because in 1987, the FDA made it effectively illegal to sell you the real thing across state lines. With the stroke of a pen, the government mandated the mass sterilization of our food supply. Everything had to be pasteurized. Everything had to be dead. Welcome to nature's lost vault. Before the industrial machine decided our food needed to be sterile, humanity thrived on a preservation system so old that no single civilization invented it. It required no electricity, no refrigeration, and no chemicals. Just a jar, salt, water, and time. The archive opens in a cave in northern Israel. Archaeologists working at a Natufian burial site in 2018 found the chemical residue of fermented grain inside stone mortars. Beer brewed 13,000 years ago, not just for pleasure, but as preserved nourishment. Cereal grains soaked and left to transform were converted by wild bacteria into food that lasted weeks when fresh grain would have spoiled in days. This was not accident. This was observation. Humans realized that food submerged in water and deprived of oxygen did not rot. It became something more stable, more nourishing, and in ways they would not understand for another 12 millennia, more alive. In Mesolithic Sweden, 9,600 years ago, at a site called Norge Sunansund, archaeologists uncovered structured underground gutters built specifically to ferment fish. Not accident. A system. Roman legions marching across Gaul and North Africa carried barrels of fermented cabbage. It did not spoil on the march, and it kept armies alive when the alternative was scurvy and dysentery. When Captain James Cook sailed from Plymouth in 1772 on his second Pacific voyage, he loaded 7,860 pounds of sauerkraut into the hold. After 3 years at sea, circling Antarctica and traversing the Pacific, he lost no men to scurvy. The Royal Society awarded him a medal for it. In Korea, 40 generations of families have maintained the same kimchi cultures without interruption. The same bacteria, the same clay pots, passed hand to hand across centuries. Every culture, every continent. The same discovery, reached independently across thousands of years of human history. Here is what they all learned. When you create the right conditions, submerge vegetables in brine, exclude oxygen, and give it time, a specific family of bacteria called lacto-bacillus takes over. These lactic acid bacteria live naturally on the surface of every leaf, every grain, every vegetable you have ever touched. They consume the natural sugars and produce lactic acid. The pH drops. Dangerous pathogens cannot survive. And the food is preserved, not by killing everything, but by choosing exactly what lives. No heat, no chemicals, no refrigeration. Lactobacillus does the work. In 1904, a Russian-born scientist named Elie Metchnikov stood before the Pasteur Institute in Paris and made a claim that would define the next century of nutritional science. He had been studying mortality data in rural Bulgaria. Something anomalous kept appearing. People in certain villages, eating traditional diets heavy in fermented dairy, yogurt, kefir, and cultured buttermilk, were living to 87 years old in an era when most Europeans died before 60. Metchnikov proposed a mechanism. The human gut was a battleground, and these living foods were winning it. Every jar of yogurt was a daily act of biological maintenance. In 1908, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Mainstream science dismissed him within a decade. His bacteria, they claimed, could not survive the human digestive system. He was discredited, his research shelved, and therapeutic fermentation was abandoned by medicine for the next half-century. Then, in July 2021, a team at Stanford University published a clinical trial that changed the conversation. 36 healthy adults, 10 weeks. One group ate a high-fermented food diet, yogurt, kefir, kimchi, fermented cottage cheese, and vegetable brine drinks. 6 servings per day. The other group tripled their fiber intake. The results were, in the words of lead researcher Justin Sonnenberg, stunning. The fermented food group showed increased microbiome diversity and a decrease in 19 inflammatory markers, including interleukin-6, a protein directly linked to type 2 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, and chronic stress. Every single participant. The high-fiber group, no increase in microbiome diversity, no decrease in inflammation. Their undigested fiber was passing through untouched because their gut bacteria had been so depleted by the industrial diet that they could no longer process it. Elie Metchnikoff was not wrong. He was simply 114 years early. So how was this knowledge erased? In the 1850s, American cities were growing faster than their food systems could adapt. Urban dairies were feeding cows toxic fermented grain waste from adjacent distilleries, slop, because it was cheap. The cows were sick, the milk was contaminated. Typhoid, tuberculosis, scarlet fever. Infant mortality in urban slums hit 20%. The solution should have been fixing the dairies. Instead, industrialists backed a campaign to simply boil the problem away. The first mandatory pasteurization law passed in Chicago in 1909, introduced by men with direct financial ties to Rockefeller, who held investments in Borden's condensed milk, the Chicago Milkshed, Sheffield Farms, and Armour's Dairy Division. These were centralized industrial processes. Pasteurization required expensive sterilization equipment only large operations could afford. Small farmers selling direct to families could not comply. They were forced out. Illinois mandated statewide pasteurization in 1909. New York followed in 1910. The U.S. Public Health Service recommended it nationally in 1912. And on August 10, 1987, the FDA published the final regulation, 21 CFR Part 1, 240.61, banning all raw dairy from interstate commerce. The official notation read, "Raw milk, no matter how carefully produced, may be unsafe." The American diet became a sterile wasteland, and into that vacuum stepped the supplement industry. By 2024, the global probiotics market was valued at $72 billion. What are they selling? Lactobacillus, Bifidobacterium, the exact organisms that grow free in a jar of brine, except they have a biological problem they cannot solve. When you swallow a probiotic capsule, those freeze-dried bacteria must survive your stomach acid, your bile salts, and the competitive pressure of your existing gut microbiome. CFU counts, colony-forming units, decline between the factory and your hands. A percentage die before they ever reach your intestine. A tablespoon of properly fermented, unpasteurized sauerkraut contains approximately 10 billion live colony-forming units of lactobacillus. That is equal to an entire bottle of the most expensive supplement on the shelf, and it costs pennies. Its bacteria arrive embedded in a natural food matrix that buffers them against stomach acid, ensuring far more of them reach your gut alive. Metchnikoff's Bulgarians were not taking capsules. They were eating living food every day, maintaining continuous bacterial populations. Not a monthly subscription. Daily maintenance. The same maintenance every culture on Earth had practiced for 13,000 years. Here is the exact recipe your grandmother used. 1 head of cabbage. Weigh it. Calculate 2% of that weight in salt. That ratio is the key, enough to suppress harmful bacteria, not enough to stop the lactobacillus. Shred the cabbage. Massage the salt into it until it releases its own water. Pack it tightly into a glass jar, pressing down until the natural brine rises completely above the leaves. Keep it submerged. Leave it at room temperature for 3 to 4 weeks. That is the entire recipe. No starter cultures, no equipment. The bacteria you need are already living on the surface of those leaves. You are not adding anything. You are selecting, creating conditions where lactobacillus thrives and everything else cannot. 1 head of cabbage costs $1. The salt costs pennies. 3 weeks later, you have more medicine than a pharmacy shelf. The jar in your grandmother's basement was not primitive. It was the product of 13,000 years of human refinement, carried across every ocean, preserved through every war, maintained through every famine. We did not lose this knowledge. We were told to stop using it. But telling a living culture to stop growing is not the same as killing it. The bacteria are still there, on every cabbage leaf, in every kitchen, in every jar waiting to be packed. You do not need a $72 billion industry. You do not need a prescription. You do not need permission. You need a head of cabbage, a handful of salt, and the memory of what your grandmother already knew. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to replace. The next vault opens soon.